Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's I Love Learning podcast. I'm Gina Anderson, CEO and co founder of Luma Brighter Learning. And the reason why I have this podcast is because I enjoy inviting people who like to engage and inspire and help other people learn and overcome the impossible. And in fact, what you're going to find is some of them have overcome the impossible themselves. And really, I like to celebrate these individuals because they have the mind of a champion. And today, I would like to welcome one of those champions, and that is Kelly Zurliene. And she is not only a librarian, and I will have her introduce herself, but she is an accomplished financial support person, and she won Rookie of the Year just a few weekends ago. And congratulations, Kelly, for that. Thank you so much for coming on today's podcast. Why don't you introduce yourself and share with the audience today really what you're passionate about?
Hi, Gina. Thank you. And hello, everybody. Yes, my name's Kelly Zurliene, and Gina's right. I'm a mother of two sons. I am a library director for a public library, and I'm a financial professional with Mass Mutual. And so typically I work with high-level professionals and help them get clarity on their financial goals and then help them build out realistic plans to get to those goals. My passion is people. Number one, I'm a natural nurturer. Prior to becoming a librarian, I was a teacher. So for me, what motivates me is helping others and connecting with people. And so I've been able to use those skills. Those skills are very transferable into careers like finance, where oftentimes financial professionals can speak above the client and where I can bring it down and make it something that makes sense and sort of nurture and figure out what exactly makes the client tick. So for me, that's what makes life purposeful, is connecting with people on a real level and using sort of my nurturing with it. So there's my little intro.
Yeah, I love that. And I got connected with Kelly. We connected through LinkedIn and really formed an instant connection. Because one thing I realized really quickly is Kelly, I mean, even though she won Rookie of the Year, things have not come easy for her. And in fact, she's overcome a lot and a lot of roadblocks and hurdles that really stood in the way of her passion. And I really thought it would be amazing to have Kelly on today so she could share maybe about a specific time that she faced one of these roadblocks and it stood in the way of kind of her passion and the way she was moving forward. And then she could share with us, like, really what helped her overcome that passion.
Sure. So about 4 years ago, without getting into too many details on my personal life, my life at home was flipped upside down. And what was once a job where I was finished at 2:45 every day and could pick up my kids from school and could have dinner on the table. And I spent a lot of time at home nurturing my own children, which is a privilege, absolutely. I found myself in a place where that's no longer is going to serve my circumstance. I needed more income. I needed to protect myself. I found myself feeling like the floor was gone. I would say this to my loved ones. I would say my ground, I'm not grounded, I'm floating. And it sort of came from a place where financial needs were not met to the capacity that I needed and wanted for my life and my children. And also the reality of you got to do this yourself. And just the awakening, the slap of that's it. What's next for you? And so to overcome those challenges, just like anybody who's had challenges, first you just get through it. And then you pick yourself up and say, okay, what am I doing from here forward? And so some of the characteristics I think that really got me to the next career and got me passionate again was discipline. It was discipline. It was kicking myself in the butt. Get up, learn something new, do something new. like God, gave me a brain. Like that's what I have. That's my abilities right there. Right.
Mm.
Can my brain be renewed, and can I continue to learn and try something hard? And out of natural curiosity grows with that, right? Starts with discipline, in my opinion. And you sort of like get down to the books, right? I spent an entire year taking classes and passing 9 different
Wow.
courses
Mm-hmm.
to become certified to join the financial industry. And I did it after my kids went to sleep. And I would stay up with the lamp and read and wonder, like, what if this isn't the right career for me? I thought, well, I guess I'll figure it out. I'm still going to, move forward and pass these tests and see what happens. So, discipline and drive. And of course, it takes a support system, outside of me, friends and family and neighbors. But I think it's just getting time to get through the hard thing, giving yourself space to do that. And then let's go. Like keep
Yeah.
moving. Even if it's not the right choice, then it'll move you to the next right choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I hear you saying, and I've heard you say before when we've talked, is really you have this inner voice, this inner drive, this willpower, and maybe that stems like you said, from your two sons, from your children, but something inside of you awakened you, like told you, like, this is the time, I need to do something, because you were in a situation that was devastating and you didn't know how you were going to go forward, right? And then something inside of you, you went through that process because you grieved, and then you decided, I need to do this. And you did it. You got up and did it with talking and support of others. What really inspires you every day? So that was several years ago, right? What continues that drive, or what continues to inspire you to continue to learn? Because the thing is, it's not easy. Like you said, this wasn't something that you just decided to go back to school. I mean, you had two sons, your life had been turned upside down, and you're like, look, I got to do this. This is not going to be easy. But you did that, and you continue to do that, working multiple jobs, doing multiple things to make your life better. So, what continues you to keep that fire that's inside of you that we hear in your voice?
Hmm. Thank you. That's a great question. And it's almost a compliment and a question at once. I think that you hit it head with like my inner intuition, my desire. I love challenges, and I almost hate to say that out loud because it's going to make my life harder. But I do. I think a challenge is what gets me motivated. I read a few years ago, I read this book, and it said this one phrase out of the entire book, it's 2 words. I will tell you what it
Mm.
is. And I
Hmm.
put it on my fridge. I wrote it really big, and the words are with a question mark. I actually wrote it down because I figured this would get brought up. I don't know if this is backwards, but can I?
Yeah.
Like, can I? Do you think I can? Can I do it? And so,
Mm.
sort of like, let me see. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can take, then I would kind of get in my brain like, let me see if I can take my nurturing communication skills and attach it to something like finance and see if I can make that click.
Mm.
Let's see if I can. Let me see if I like this topic. I remember taking my first life insurance class, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if I'm going to like it. I signed up and I took the course. We'll see. And
Mm.
so then I was learning, and I was like, I kind of like this. I guess I'll stick with it, right? So I'm just living one day at a time, not putting too many high expectations on it, but
Mm.
challenging myself. Like, let me just try it and see what happens. I think taking away the fear
Mm.
by asking the question, is it possible? Most people will say, I can't. I'm already this age. I'm already too far in this one industry. There's no way. I don't talk well to people. I can't pick up the phone
Mm.
or whatever it may be. They bring those statements out, and then fear shuts down, and then change never happens. And instead, flipping it to like, sounds kind of scary, but let's see if I can, right? Let's see if I can do it, and try to take those phrases away.
Wow. I mean, that's exactly right? It's that ability to not give up and to continue, even though it's the most difficult thing that you have to go through, to continue to do that. Interesting, Kelly. I, have been studying, my passion is studying the brain and how we learn. And neuroscientists, and I posted this just a day ago on my LinkedIn, but recently they found that our interior mid cingulate cortex, we actually have two of them on either side of the brain, they're actually linked to our willpower. And what the scientists are saying is that the more times you go through something that's tough and tougher and tougher, it's not work that we like to do, it's work that we don't like to do. I have an example. I don't like running, but every morning I get up and I do it. Even though I don't like it, I do it. But what happens in our brain is that piece of the brain they're finding as they do these examinations is getting larger. And when you have an enlarged piece of that cortex, your willpower gets stronger. And this area of our brain, it grows and it shrinks. It's very neuroplastic. It grows and it shrinks. And so this is, I think, also related. I would hypothesize it's related to our willingness or complacency. When we become complacent, it gets smaller. So someone who's obese, this area is really, really small. Somebody that, like you, who've overcome and have the strong willpower, they look at the brain and they see, wow, this is actually grown. This is bigger. And so there is a correlation between doing these things that you don't like to do and don't like to work. You're saying, like, but do it. Like, you have the willpower to do it. And I think the most difficult part for people is to do it, right? And so when you're doing something you don't like, or you're engaged in these type, like, I don't like running but I do it, why do we continue to do it? What makes you happy every day that makes you want to continue to do these things?
Connecting with people. And I mentioned this
Mm,
before, but it's truly, truly what drives me. When I connect with new people or current clients, like, that's it.
mm,
Ding, right? Or at the library, the patrons at the library, that's what brings me joy. But prior to that, or even like borderline of that, is my kids. My
mm,
kids, absolutely. I see the end goal, right? So just if I jump ahead 10 years, what could my life look like? Could I pay for their college? There's
mm,
another. Can I? Will I have enough to? I would love to do a trip to Europe, the three of us. Can I? So just keeping the end goal in mind. But that daily happiness is for sure people. The
mm.
people I work with are joyful. I'm honored there to be part of a group that is, for the most part, they're human, right? But joyful. And when
Mm.
you surround yourself around joyful people, it really helps.
That's amazing. I want to ask you a question that kind of goes off script here, because I'm really interested to hear your perspective on it. And it has to do with this idea of wanting to be alone. So the Surgeon General in November came out with a study that states that 1 in 4 adults feel lonely. There's also research that's been released by Harvard that says most adults prefer to be alone. And so I think about this, like, kind of paradox where people are feeling lonely, but at the same time, research is showing that people are preferring to be alone. And so, what specifically for you, like, I'm thinking about COVID, and like, that's 4 years ago already, like almost to the day, right? A few days ago. When you're put into this position where you can't be with people, or you don't have the resources, or during a pandemic, we weren't, and you're actually alone, are you still connected? Like, do you still feel connected? And how do you build these connections, since your passion is with people? How do you see building connections in a world where a lot of people are preferring to be alone, but at the same time, you have a whole host of people that are lonely?
Gosh, that is very interesting. Thanks for sharing those studies. They're
Yeah,
almost paradox.
yeah.
So I think it's balance, because there are people in my life that will say, "Oh, Kelly's extroverted for sure." And then there are people closer to me that will say,
Mhm,
"You're introverted." Like,
mhm,
for sure. Like, they're almost so far on the spectrum, as if they may see me at work versus see me at home, or whatever it may be, like, socially. So I think balance is huge. So when people are filling out those surveys, they really want to be alone. Maybe at that time that they filled out the survey,
mhm,
they have 4 kids and a job and a dog, and they really crave lonely. They crave alone time.
Mhm.
And then others filling out the survey are not in a relationship and they are mostly alone and they're like, I need people. Right? So
Mhm.
it serves a purpose. Both states serve a purpose. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree. And with this passion you have or kind of in your work, has there been something that you can kind of pinpoint that has really left an impact on your thinking or kind of made you be kind of where you're at in the process of your passion?
Sure. So I changed the way I thought about priorities.
Mm.
So often in life, you'll hear people as you're growing up, like, get your priorities straight, right? You hear elders say this, get your
Mhm.
priorities straight, make sure your priorities straight. And I would hear this and like, yeah, my priorities are straight. But in work for success and for someone who has a to-do list that is longer than what they can accomplish, it sounds really basic, but it made a huge impact on me, is making the priority list and then remake the list, right? So
Mm.
many items on the list that I need to do today, the
Mhm.
easy ones, the quick ones, the ones I've done before, those are the ones I gravitate toward. Like, I'll get
Mhm.
those done. And then 3 hours goes by and I didn't do necessarily the most priority, the
Mm.
biggest priority on the list. And the biggest priority on the list is always the thing I'm a little scared to do, or
Yeah.
haven't, or I haven't done it before, or it's the one that takes a long time. But
Mhm.
that thing, that one at the top or the top three, those are going to take you to the next level, not
Wow.
the 12 other things. So it's
Mhm.
like, you really got to do a gut check. Like all these little things I can probably do when I'm kind of tired later
Mhm.
tonight or at the end of the day. But the hardest thing, doing it, pushing yourself to do that first when you're most energized in the morning and doing it earlier. Because otherwise it get pushed off to the next day and the next day and the next day. All of a sudden a week goes by, you're like, I never did that. And then you
Yeah.
notice your success and your progress declining just because of not like reanalyzing your priority list. So sounds basic, but that was a game changer for me a few years ago when I changed that. I do it even for home tasks, things at home. Like, which thing will have the biggest impact? What actually do I need to do? Because laundry can get done anytime, you know? So,
Right, right. I really like this idea of looking at your priority list and realizing what is it that you don't want to do. And just know out there from a neuroscience perspective, if you pick those things that you don't want to do, it's going to make your willpower stronger and
oh,
come
I love it.
so in your drive stronger. And so this idea of doing things you don't want to do actually, like you said, might have a bigger impact not only externally but internally. And that's pretty cool. That's
That is.
interesting to think about. Absolutely. When we think about learning, and you talk about these things that make an impact, is there something specific the way that you would describe authentic learning? I know you're in the library, you love learning, you're a librarian, you enjoy reading. So to you, what does authentic learning look like? Like if you were to describe it, and what tip would you say to someone that's trying to make learning authentic?
I would say, I'm going to be as real can be. I think that authentic learning or learning in general is messy. I think it's imperfect. I think it's read and then go read it again. Or even if it's not a textual or information that you're learning, if it's a life experience and you try to learn something from that, the real learning is messy.
Hmm.
And I think to like actually master real learning, it starts with, most of the time for me, I guess, it starts with discipline and then the passion
Hmm.
later. If it starts with passion, it's
Hmm.
probably wonderful as well. I haven't experienced it that way. Starting with discipline first, because it's hard when you learn something new. You have to sort of, and then sort of the passion and the confidence drives. But yeah, I think it's messy.
Absolutely. This idea of discipline, this voice that you hear to do it, the voice that you hear that's it's going to be difficult and having discipline, it sounds like, to get through. I mean, for you to go back into school, you started something completely new, a totally different area than
Yeah.
what you were working or are working in to do, something that I would suspect you were interested in. And how did you switch? How did that happen? How did you switch from one career? This will benefit a lot of people listening who aren't very happy in their current situation. How did you switch from? And again, you didn't have a huge financial support base to do this. You were on your own. So how did you do
Absolutely.
that? What discipline did you use to switch completely into a new learning element?
I put my toe in really slow.
Mm, yeah.
Um, but I have always been interested in budgeting and finance. I've been the mom that had the app that every time I went to the gas station, I was like categorizing it. I know this sounds
Mm.
silly, but like since I was 20, I like to organize.
Uh-huh.
And then when I realized I needed to do life on my own and be my own retirement and my own investing in my own world with my two boys, I I got deeper into it. So I checked out every book I could at the library, which I
Mm,
enjoyed doing. And I was just reading all kinds of things about finance and long term and short term and risks. And I found myself just naturally curious. And so what
mm,
I did was I signed up for a 3-day course. And with financial certifications, you don't actually have to go to a university, right? You can get certified. There's a lot of places you can
mhm.
get certifications to be part of that world. But I did a 3-day class and I didn't tell anyone because I thought
Oh,
people are going to wonder library finance. This doesn't make sense. So I signed up for the 3-day class and every day I drove home, I was like, do I like it? Like, if I like it, I'll
mm,
stick with it. So I just sort of put my toe in. And I
got
think
it.
that's probably the healthiest way to do it is first to see, do I find joy? Is this information helpful to me? And then rewriting my own. I changed my own insurance. I changed my own mortgage. I changed things after I learned. And then I
Mm,
thought this could be useful to others. Specifically, at first, I was thinking women like me, women who are single and trying to run the house. Then I was like families who have kids my kids' age, right? People in my same um, path in life. I could help them. I understand how the options that maybe weren't explained to me well before, or maybe I didn't look into them well enough before.
absolutely. Tip your toes into the library, y'all. They're still out there. There's digital
Yes.
libraries, but you can go to a library. We have one in our town. I run by it and see what interests you. See what interests you. And with that, if someone comes to you, Kelly, and I know you've interviewed a lot of different people, you're writing a book, a workbook. But what if somebody told you during that discussion or just in general that they've really lost their passion, they've lost their passion for learning, and maybe they think they're at a dead end and they don't know what to do, kind of like at the darkest times that you had. What advice could you provide to them if they just can't hear that voice that says, come on, go do it, let's do it? What would you tell them, or what suggestion would you have for them?
I think first I would tell them, I totally get that. I understand what it's like to lose passion and to not want to get up and to feel kind of in a corner. Like I don't like what I'm doing, but I'm not sure what's next. I think that's part of life, like the waves, the up and down. I think getting back to finding a passion is the work.
Hmm.
So going to a library, figuring out what that next passion is, that's the hard work, getting out of the stuck position. I think that's the tough part. And so I think another way to think of it is you almost have to trick your brain. You have to believe in the renewal of your mind, right? Cells are
Mm,
constantly, connectors are constantly happening in the brain. And so each day, give yourself a chance, give yourself a shot. What's next for me? And know that's okay to be in between for a little while until that next passion. When we are passionate, life glides a little easier. So those who are there and they're doing something they're passionate about, sometimes they don't understand. They're like, just find something you like because they're there and life is it's flowing easier. But for those stuck, it feels like you're pushing, like you just can't figure out what's next. And so in those cases, I would say dip your toes in slowly and trust the renewal of the mind. Trust that your brain can handle new information, a new career, a new topic. And reach out to people who love you, because they often can tell on the outside. They probably can assess what you'd be good at. I think that would be worth the time, is going to people you love and saying, what do you think I should do next? And just letting them talk, letting them kind of give you some suggestions, because they know you well.
Absolutely. Kelly, thank you so much for joining me today. You are an inspiration. You have a mind of a champion, and you're right. If you have the courage to take that little step, your mind, which is obviously the voice of your brain, can adapt and can make new changes. You just have to make the step forward. Kelly, where can people reach you? Do you want to leave any lasting words for us today?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Gina, for having me on. I appreciate it. One of my goals in 24 was to speak more, to speak in groups, speak places. And so you're helping me with that. This is my second speaking engagement in 2024. People can find me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to find me. So it's Kelly with a Y, and then Zurliene. That's probably the best place. I will also link below, if I can, Gina, or actually in the comments, I'll put a link directly to the financial firm that I work for, where you can find my information there too.
Awesome. Kelly, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Happy
Gina.
Pi Happy Pi Day.
Oh yeah, 3.14. Happy Pi Day.